Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Office Museum's Artifact video series. My name is Ryan Duffy and I'm the director of the museum. And this week we're going to look at some of the antique winter items that we have that you'd normally be using this late in December, even though we don't really have any snow to account of at the filming of this video. But we're going to talk about some of the antique sleds that we have that were used both for recreation and for business as we go through them. So stick around and we'll talk a little bit more about something from all our childhoods, but we're going back about at least 100 years ago with recreation in the snow. All right, so the first one we're looking at here is a very typical design that we would see around the turn of the 20th century. So this was from around 1900, this particular children's sled. And it's got the classic iron skis that we all kind of think of with that shape, and very rustic wooden boards that form the seats. They're actually quite loose. So this was a very simple construction. Might have even been at least partially handmade, but would still get you down the hill pretty quickly. And I'm sure the kids at the time really enjoyed this. And still very durable, a little different than our plastic ones of today for sure. Our next example here is also from around the same time period, around 1900. And this one has more of a wood construction with a wider seat. And I think this one did have some kind of back to it as well, at least originally. But this one has a nice long rope, so you can hold on to it and steer it a little bit as you're going down the hill. But this one's a little unique in that it's hard to tell from far away, but there's actually iron skis on the bottom that allow you to go through snow much easier. But that's the only piece that's metal on the entire thing. Everything else is made out of wood. So another old-time sled that the kids used to love going down the hills with. All right, our next example here is one that we have that actually has a very unique design to it. And this came around 1880, we believe it was made. And it belonged to the Orchid family and was passed down through generations there. Now this one is all wood, except it does have metal braces connecting the seat to the legs here, but everything else is pretty much wood on it. There is a little bit of metal reinforcing on the front as well. But this one, don't know how much it was really used. I don't know if it was more of a decorative piece or not, but it's very cool because it was painted green and the rest of it yellow, and it has many tulip scenes on its front there, which I'll give you a close-up of. So it's a little bit of an example of some painting of our toys here to customize them and make them look even more pretty than just the plain wood ones that I showed before. And our last example here goes back to the 1900s to the 1920s that it was used. Now this one wasn't really used for recreation, as it was actually used in a business capacity, as this one was used to pull groceries during the winter in the village of Oakfield from about 1908 to 1924 by one of the grocery shops there. So this was a simple means of transportation, especially on those snowy days and nights when you really couldn't get through on either horseback, or the automobile was still very young at this point and not very reliable in the snow. So this was how you transported some of your goods. So they would just load them up on the bed here and drag it with the rope. I assume the rope was much longer to begin with. But this one actually does have some designs on the base here, on the seat. And it actually has a name written on it and some motifs called the Lightning Guider. So it's unique that it has its own very name, even though it really wasn't meant for speed in this case, though I'm sure this was also a recreation model, but it was used in a business capacity for its time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Artifact video series and learned a little bit more about the antique sleds we have here in our collection. Maybe brought back a little nostalgia of all our childhoods, sledding down the snowy hills. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. Or if you'd like, go back and check out the rest of the video series playlist, as we are closing in on 200 videos. And as you go back, give those a thumbs up if you really do enjoy them. But as always, the best way to learn more about any of the artifacts that we talk about in these videos is to stop by and see them for yourself at the museum. We will share even more information, and you can see most of them up close and personal when they're out on display. If you really do want to support what we do here at the museum and enjoy all of our programming and the videos and such, consider becoming a member, as it's the easiest way to support us, and it can go for as little as $25 for the year, but there are levels up from that.